Poopsies, hi, it's me, Tony Bomboni, ASMR, and welcome back to your video. If you are new to this channel, welcome to the Poopsie family. We're a bunch of baby poopsies. Just a cute little name I like to call my subscribers. If you could just hit that red subscribe button down below, and when you hit all notifications, when you tap that notification bell, you hit all notifications, you get notified of new vids from me every day. Yeah, I upload every day on this channel. And I recently have been trying out YouTube Shorts. I don't know how long I'm going to do it, if I'm going to continue doing it. I'm just beta testing it for now. But it's fun, you know. I recently did a tarot pick a card for the day, message of the day tarot on that YouTube short. I do tarot reading on my website. If you have a question for me, you're going through a financial problem, you're going through a love life problem, you're going through family issues, dilemmas, you can ask any question. You can ask questions about people, you can ask questions about things you're going through yourself. Anything, TonyBomboni.com. Alright, tarot reading, I always shout out because it's like, even when I don't shout it out, people book it. It's my most popular book service ever. Of anything that I've ever sold or promoted on this YouTube channel, tarot reading is number one. People flock to me for that like crazy, so I'm very happy to do that for you, and I enjoy it very much. And I think because I enjoy it, the energy behind it produces more. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you. But I also provide so much more on there. You don't have to just book me for tarot. Obviously, it's just like so many other things on my website. Tony Bomboni, that's the place to check, TonyBomboni.com. Alright, Poopsie, so today is going to be a dating encounter story time, kind of like I did a couple years ago when I had that red hair, you know. But this time I'll be talking about other guys, okay? So I spoke about 4 guys on there. I called them Johnny, Nate, I think I called one Steve, I'm not sure, and then another I think I called Timothy. So, you know, I try not to be exposing people's names, but let me spill the tea, alright? So this is gonna be talking about a more interesting dating encounters. So these are, I picked 6 different ones now after this. So the first ones I was talking about when I was like in my teenage years. Now these are more in my early to mid-20s, when I was in my early to mid-20s, alright? So, and these are just some of them, you know. It's kind of hard to pick, and you're thinking back to like past memories, like, wait a minute, this one wasn't that interesting, let me not talk about it. Alright, the first 3 I done already spoke about. They each have had their own separate story times, like an hour to an hour and a half long story times about them, like spilling the tea, what went down in the relationship, stuff like that. So, for those that haven't seen it, I'm gonna maybe refresh in your memory, maybe include more information you didn't know. But I'm gonna be spilling the tea, but I'm not gonna go that deep, okay? I'm not gonna spend like too much time on each person. I'm just gonna kind of summarize, because I do want to get to the other 3 I haven't spoke about either. So here we go. This is gonna be interesting dating encounter story time. So y'all know I'm a romantic, okay? So even when I say and put up a front that I'm not interested in a man's anymore, like 6 months later I'll be probably with someone else, okay? So you know how it is, alright? You know how it is. You gotta try your luck, right? It's like playing I consider it like a slot machine. You just get what you get, right? It's a gamble, and you know what? You have fun while you can, and then if it don't work out, it don't work out. You just quit, make more money, come back to the casino and try again. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so basically, I've looked back in my like track record. Alright, yes, we all have a track record. And on average, I be with a new guy around 1 time per year. That's not too bad, okay? I know hippos who be with 10 men a month. Okay, no shade, but you know what? I've known them, okay? That's not me. That's not my cup of tea. That's not my style. I'm a classy September Virgo, okay? So we don't hit it up like that. We don't play around like that, okay? Because we're not about to go to the clinic to be checking ourselves or something we may have caught, okay? So I ain't about have a very highfalutin job, so I cannot say their name. And their name is so unique and different, and it's very rare, and it's from a specific country, so if I say it right away, it may or may not be too obvious. Okay, especially if like their friends or family watching this video, who it is. So I'm gonna say, I think I called them Tree, okay? I think I called them Tree because their name is a part of a tree. It's a Norwegian name, you probably know. It's the green part of the tree. It's not the fruit, but it's the... Okay, so I'm gonna call him Tree. So I'm gonna call him Tree. So Tree. Lord have mercy. Hey, it's also a 4-letter name, so there you go. I think I gave enough information there. This person's a doctor, okay, allegedly. No, they're not really a doctor, but they have a doctorate, but it's like they're not really a doctor, they're more like a psychologist, whatever. I don't even remember anymore, to be honest with you. Psychologist. I think so. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point. It was so long ago, it feels like. But I'm gonna tell you the interesting parts, only the interesting parts of the story, okay? Not the bitter or resentful parts, because I'm mostly over it anyway, okay? You know, all these people at one point or another broke my heart, okay? So I have to make a joke about it, right? Because I'm looking back on it years later. I'm like, that's funny that I even went through that. Anyway, because I was just a young, stupid boy. Okay, so yeah, I was about like 23, 24 years old. All right, and I went to this conference. It was like for hypnotherapy. Yeah, it was for hypno. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know, like the night before I was like, I have a feeling I have to go to this conference. So like I ended up going. And then this guy just comes up to me right away. After I grab my coffee, he's like checking me out up and down. He's like in his 50s or whatever. He was alone. He came alone, okay? And I sat down. And the show was about to start, right? They even had entertainment. They had like a magician. It was like, I paid so much for this ticket. I'm like, it better be worth it. They better be feeding us gold flakes in this coffee, okay? So yeah, it was nice. It was like in a Hilton hotel. It was all right, okay? So I had a good time. And even though we had to pay for our own hotel, but that's besides the point. Moving on. And there was some pretty important people there. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Anyway, moving on. So he went up to me. He's like, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're the most beautiful person I've ever seen." I'm like, "Oh my God, like this guy is really playing around, but let me give him a shot, right?" And I'm into a little older. Okay, I'm into a little older. Okay, is there something wrong with that? 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 No. Okay, so moving on. Maybe I'm just too confident. So that's my dating style, and I was like, yeah, okay, he had that like a silver hair, but not the type of like old person silver hair. You could tell it was like dyed or something. Like it was looking good, okay. And the way he's dressed, you can tell he comes from a little shmoney, okay. So anyway, so I'm like, all right. So we chatted up, asking the basic questions, but he's like love bombing me, so I knew right away. Red flag, but I'm still like, you know what? Let me give the benefit of the doubt, because this is the first time someone came up to me this abruptly in front of everyone. It was embarrassing. And so I'm like, all right, let me give you a chance, feel up your energy. But I was kind of closed off at the time, so I'm like, yeah, I'm not about this life. I'm not about to, be trying something new here with you when I'm just, I don't know, I felt ready but not ready, because I was just also getting over at the time an ex, and I was just in between worlds, and I was like, okay, this is crazy. Why did the universe send me this person at the time, And that was pre-Jesus. I didn't really have Jesus much in my life back then, so, I didn't have any inner guidance or a voice or something. So I just was like trying to use my intuition, and even that didn't work, So I'm like, all right, it's too easy, right? You know, they say the energy that comes too easy, like that's probably meant for you, right? Without trying, like effortless manifestation. So I'm like, all right, let me give this poop head a try. Because that's all he really was, just a poop head, just trying to play with people's hearts. And we end up talking, long story short, we go back to the hotel room. So he asked me for a massage. Every time, everyone always asks me for a massage. I'm like, as soon as they find out I study massage therapy, it's like, oh, there you go. They asked for a massage. I'm like, and they love it, and they keep asking for more, because, I don't know, I guess there's something in particular in my hands. I don't know what it is, but I've been told my hands are very, very special, healing, whatever. I don't know what to believe, but anyway, so apparently I'm good. So yeah, time and time again, every guy I've been with and dating, like begging me for massage, like every day, like yeah, like they really are insistent that that's the first thing I do. So I'm like, what am I, a slave or servant? Okay, but anyway, so give him a full body, and then he just like right away just don't take everything off right in front of me. I'm like, I only know you for 2 hours, and that's how you're gonna play this right now. Like, we're about to go to lunch, like we're late for the conference, like, and he's just like, everything off. And I'm like, but impressive, like the most impressive 50-something I've ever seen, like muscular, like really impressive. Okay, so yeah, and I'm like, oh, he's a doctor too. I'm like, oh, I felt very special and important that day. I was like, he just came up to me, like, what made me qualified to be come up to like that, you know? Like, I'm the one supposed to come up to him, you know? Like, secure that bag. So I'm like, what is it about me? And I don't know, maybe I had really good energy that day, because when I was at the conference, some random girl just came up to me. She's like, you know what, I just couldn't help it, but I have to tell you, you have the best energy I've ever felt. I was like, what now? Like, I don't know, just some other random guy also came up to me. He's like, I really like you. Oh my gosh, you're so likable. Oh, let me tell you about my life story. He was telling me about his artwork, and he was selling like 10,000-20,000 pieces of art, like almost every day. I'm like, oh dang, you know, like, what is it about? Anyway, maybe it's just because they were feeling the love vibration between me and Tree. Okay, like my heart chakra was emanating that day, and everyone was feeling the love. And even this one girl kept looking at me, like she kept like twirling her hair and looking back, and I was like, all right, if I rolled that way, maybe I would have been interested or something. Maybe you can join me in Tree too, back in the Hilton Hotel. But no, I was not about that life. But she kept looking at me. She kept turning around and looking at me. I was like, mind you, she was very pretty, but no thank you. Okay, moving on. So I was like, I already secured Tree. I ain't about that life, okay? I ain't about to be doing a trio, okay? I'm with Tree, but no trio, please. Okay, but anyway, guys, sorry I'm obnoxious. I just have a lot of energy this morning. I'm currently working with my bloodstone, so that's probably why. It's the Christ consciousness stone, and it's also a stone of just giving you a good connection to earth and just a bunch of vitality energy. So I really like it a lot. It's giving me passion, it's giving me vibrancy, it's giving me flair, it's giving me, I already am gonna meet my own Tree. Yes, I'm gonna be meeting my own Tree. That's better for me, not a poop head, okay? A poo poo head, because he hurt my heart. Anyway, so let me get to my point, okay? So we're having the best time. He offered to buy me the magic show ticket. He offered to buy me lunch, and oh, we're just eating at the nicest places. And he's like, I want to take you back home. After like 3 days we spent together at the conference. It was a 3-day trip. It was like in somewhere. Okay, I don't want to say exactly where. Somewhere in Florida, a city. Okay. So he's like, I want to take you back with me to my house. And then he tells me he has a partner. See, I told you this was interesting. You did not believe me. I told you this was going to be interesting. Did you believe me? No, I don't think you believe me. I think you were about to click away from the video. I think you were doubting me. I think you were... No. Have you watch my videos, you know when I spell the T, honey, I spell the T, okay? Anyway, let me tone it down, because then, okay, well, I don't want to tone it down too much, because then people don't really like to listen too deeply when they're falling asleep. So I kind of have to be a little bit obnoxious so that you stay awake long enough to listen to the message, but still be kind of relaxing, so I'm not like too intense. Anyway, so moving on. I'm like, what now? He said he had a partner of 16 years. I'm like, you did all this, and now you tell me. Oh, but we're open. He's okay with it. He'd rather me be with others. We're not getting along that much anyway. We were about to separate at one point or another anyway. So I'm like, all right, I'm still nice. I'm still, at the time, a doormat. If that was me now, no. Bye, Felicia. I don't know you. Who are you? I would have probably left the conference. You got a refund. Anyway. I'm like, all right, let give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, I gotta see this person, this situation. And it seemed appealing. You know, he gave me his address, whatever. A month later, I go to his house. The biggest house I've ever been in. Like, this was like a compound, okay? Extraordinary multi-million-dollar home. Like, jaw dropped to the floor big, okay? Like, yeah. And realistically, like, looking back, I'm like, okay, yeah, it wasn't like, there's houses like much bigger than that, okay? Like 10 times bigger even. But the way it was built made it look bigger than the actual square footage, because the square footage itself, I've lived in a similar square footage size home before, but like the way it was designed made it appear to be like 5 times bigger than it actually was. Does that make sense? I can't explain it, but still bigger than most people's houses, that's for sure. Okay. Alright, so let's get that out the way. Like, impressive. You see how I was hypnotized? Like a magic spell, yeah. So his partner comes home after an hour, and I meet him, and he had done laundry, and he actually was like, without this, like full blown. I was like, oh, that's how they're gonna go about this now, huh? Okay. And at the time I was like, okay, you know, maybe all of us fairy boys are like that, okay? Because they can be very flamboyant and like fruity. You'd like promiscuity. Yeah, I've known that. I've noticed that. Like, even when I met guys like on an app, for just friends, it always ends up, this is removed by the end of the night. I'm just saying, every time. So, like, without fail, okay? So, I'm like, yeah, this is, like, track record. You're looking back at your track record 100% of the time. No joke. 100% of the time it ends up like that. Maybe I'm too sexy. I don't know. I don't think I am. My insecurity doesn't think I am when I look in the mirror, but apparently people think I am, so there you go. Maybe that's that. Maybe it's because it's my rising Scorpio, and that side is kind of too flirty sometimes, and maybe I give off the wrong impression. Anyway, maybe it's just one too many drink. Who knows? Okay, it's not always drink though, so I don't think it's that. But anyway, moving on. See, that's why I stay away, because I get my heart broken every time, because all they care about is like the looks and stuff, and they don't look at nothing else, and it's just really sad, and it makes you feel like empty and lonely after. But anyway, so yeah, I'm like, I just met you just came back from work. Mind you, he's like a dermatologist or something. Like, he make like insane amount of money. Actually, he runs his own dermatology business, so you can imagine. Yeah, like, that's one of the highest paying jobs out there, next to like a surgeon. Like, yeah, him and that, yeah, you can imagine. There were like Fabergé eggs in that house. There were like expensive artworks. I'm talking like furniture that was just, I've never seen in my life, like from Africa, and they've been all over, like Antarctica and Asia and this and that. I'm like, oh Jesus. So very impressive. And I feel like a part of me is still there in the house because it was like just a very special place, and oh my god, like the biggest pool I've ever. It was like an Olympic pool. Very, very cool, and they were very close to the beach too. So it's like east side of Florida. Yeah, I drove like 3-4 hours to see them, and oh my god, it was like wow, crazy kid. So but yeah, I didn't really click vibe with him, and I wasn't really like, into him and attracted to him. Probably if I was, it might have been like a 3-person relationship by now, but nah, it just didn't end up working out. But and they were too far anyway. But yeah, I was spending like days there, and then he had brought like a friend over so we can practice hypno, because at the time I was still starting out, and I needed to study my material, so that's why I was there, and but it just ended up with days. I stayed there about 4 days, 3 nights. Slowly over time, a nightmare. And he would be very gaslighty, and he would make me feel crazy. He would like change his behavior all of a sudden. Narcissists, they always like, they're on their phone while you're talking to them or at the table eating. Like, they're kind of just not keeping eye contact. They always do that, always. Look it up. And so, I didn't know that at the time, but very, very gaslighty, like manipulative. Like, I was talking to him about some stuff because he kept digging it out of me, like deep emotional stuff, guilt, and to the point where I would end up in tears. And I'm like, why? How did he get me to like tears? He's a psychologist, so I'm not surprised. But I was like, manipulation, right? You looking back and you realize it. Okay, the pattern. Again, you don't realize it when you're sitting there at the time. So and I was so young, I didn't have that inner guidance. But yeah, very, very horrible person, and messed up, and yeah, definitely don't like what he did, and put me in a very vulnerable, uncomfortable place and situation. And then it ends up, again, long story short, I'm not going to go into detail about everything. I leave that place. I tell his partner what he did, and his partner's like, what? I never said we were in an open relationship. I never said that was okay. And I'm like, I was gaslit the F up, like, real bad. So Tree is like mad at me now, and then we get into this fight, and then he's like, why did you tell him, and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, you show up like without this on when I first meet you, and then you're not okay with the open relationship. So they were both in a sense gaslighting, and I'm like, now I look crazy because it looked like I was trying to get something with them. So you see how uncomfortable. So I end up leaving, and then like my tires end up like not with air. They were not very good. So I had to go to the tire place, and I'm like calling him for help because I'm like, hey, where's the nearest tire place? He's not answering the phone. So I'm like, I'm just might as well go home. So I get my tires inflated, go home, and then it was like the worst drive ever. I was like, I knew he was not gonna be into me after that. So we talk after for weeks later, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm just not interested. I don't want the idea of a relationship with you because this and that. There's some reasons, some things about your past. I'm like, it's probably because I had told him I was with a sugar daddy at one point, and he thought I was gonna use him for money. That is not true, honey. Like, yeah. At the time, I was making my own pretty well, doing just fine for myself. Alright, I had just bought my first house. And I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work. And I call him a narcissist and I block him. That's how that went. So let's move on to the second person. This person I'm gonna call. Let's call him Seth. Just a random name. I'll call him Seth. So Seth photographs. Messaged me on DM. He's like, oh, I'm from this and this place. I'm interested in getting to know you as friends, like, well, he didn't say that, but I'm just making stuff up at this point because it's been so long. We make friends pretty quick. We click, we get along over text message. Like, yeah, it just flowed smoothly. We always had very nice conversations, and even like about deep emotional subjects. And so we finally decided to meet. And this is the same time I'm in hypno school. It's shortly after tree. So in this order. And I'm like, oh yes, maybe the universe is sending me a sign. This is good. This is back in 2019 before all this craziness. So, it's like the final moments where you can actually enjoy life, right? So I drove 4 hours to go see him. And we meet for coffee and, we're talking it up. And then we go walk around. And I kind of liked him. He was very cute and stuff like that. So anyway, I was like maybe at the time 7 years older than me. Not too bad. Kind of tall, skinny dude. And very friendly, for sure. Nice, friendly, kind, caring attitude. So, and then we go back to his place and, chat it up a bit. And then I go out and about, I go explore around Disney and whatever have you not, Disney Springs. And, I got really tired at one point, so I literally parked my car because I felt homeless. I was in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, where am I? I don't even know what I'm doing here. I parked my car for an hour and just fell asleep. And then I woke up and then, because I was so tired, obviously. And then so I was like, oh my God, how am I going to drive home? I'm really tired. And it's such a long drive back. I drove all this way just to drive all the way back. It doesn't make sense. So I asked him if I could stay over for the night. And I feel comfortable getting a hotel because they were $250 and up at the time in that season. Very expensive season, Disney, Orlando, is. So I just sort of, I just sort of felt like it was not fair for me to drive all that way and then have to drive all the way back just for a 2-hour meetup, right? It just doesn't make sense, So, I wish I didn't say that looking back, because I'm I understand boundaries now. At the time, it didn't make sense, because I'm I was very young still, and I sort of, didn't learn that, right? When you first meet someone, you don't just go to their apartment and, but that was my mistake, I admit that was my mistake. So they were like, okay, sure. They kind of seemed uncertain at first, but then they were like, okay, fine, sure. And you get to meet my roommate, so we go over. I bring crazy. I don't know why I did this. I brought literally 3 bottles of wine because I felt so bad that I was intruding their space because I'm just spoiled and yeah, I didn't want to drive all the way back home. So yeah, that was my first mistake there. And then I didn't realize he was a heavy drinker. He was an alcoholic. So I was like, oh snap. So, but he was obviously very happy to see those bottles, and yeah, he ended up telling me after that that he was. I had no idea when I bought those things that he was, and I was like, I think the guilt already ate me up. So I was like, oh my God, I'm enabling. Yeah, I had no idea, like I said. So I talked to his roommate. His roommate's really cute, same age. He came back from work, and I'm shaking even talking about this because the memories are coming back to me, flooding back. All the disappointment. So he leaves, he goes in another room. Maybe we had a couple too much to drink. He goes up to me and kisses me, and I'm like, the roommate. I'm like, oh, I'm just getting to know your friend. I don't know if we should be doing this. I really like you. You're cute. He was touching my hand behind his back while we were sitting in the couch. He was reaching for my hand and touching it. And I'm I pulled away, and then I'm well, maybe I like this. I don't know. Should I leave my hand there? Should I not? Okay, here's my hand. Take it. And then when he leaves to the bathroom, he goes to plant me a kiss, and then yeah, we watch our shows. The night's over. I go to his bed, and I tell him, and he's like, oh, well, that's okay. So right away to me, that was okay, maybe you're not that into me. But anyway, seems like he's into me, but I'm telling you, like, every couple hours, drink. And I'm like, I can't do this. I go in his place, there's like roaches everywhere, the place is filthy mess. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. And I'm like trying to help him clean up. And anyway, so like I'm sorry, I have to say, I'm talking like 30 cans of LaCroix. I'm sorry, I've never seen something like that in my life. And then he ends up telling me he's depressed and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I understand. You know, I was still wanting to be with him because, you know, we weren't doing nothing like dating. He was still insistent that we were just friends. So I'm like, oh, whatever, like just being friend zoned here. But whatever, you know, I was like so desperate at the time. I'm like, was willing to be with anyone because I was just so miserable being alone for some reason. I was so sad. And looking back, that's actually why I started Hypno. The only reason I started was because I was wanting social interaction. That's it. Like, I was in such a alone place. I literally sat in my room crying because I was like feeling so alone and needed friends. That's the only reason I joined that class, that school. Like, and I was genuinely interested in Hypno as well, but the biggest underlying factor was meeting friends. And so now I realize, looking back, why those things didn't work out and why the universe was trying to tell me this isn't the path for you is because I was just doing it for a different intention. So a painful lesson, but yes, definitely makes sense looking back. So moving on, never do something because you're feeling lonely, okay? Never open that dating app because you're feeling alone. Don't do it. You're starting with the wrong foot. You have to do it when you're at peace and happy with yourself, truly, okay? Moving on. So, so you don't get hurt, okay? So I gotta say, guys, I was starting to be very judgmental to him because it was taking so long. He took 3 months of my time. And I was so desperate for someone. I said, look, aren't we gonna start dating now? What's up, you know? I kept criticizing him, and again, that's my fault, but that was a reflection of who I was at the time. Insecure, really in a bad, negative place as well, depressed as well, even though I didn't see it at the time, I was. He's like, I don't want to continue the idea of a relationship with you. I go off on him. I'm like, you wasted my time, you know what? I said horrible stuff. Like, I was like, horrible, like, to the poor kid. I was like, yeah, I was just not saying the nicest stuff at the time, okay? Because I was so hurting. I was insecure. I was not addressing the bad stuff about me, only about other people, because I was so insecure. So, of course, that ended bad, but we're still friends. And then I ended up making the StoryTime by him. I ended up blocking him. He saw it a month later. I unblock him and message him again out of desperation, loneliness, when I was dating this third person now, which I'll name him Dave. Hold on now, I'll get to Dave in a second. Good old Dave, right? And he's like, you block me, you make that StoryTime about me, how dare you? My friends saw it, because his friends watch my videos too. I was like, oh my god, everybody knows me at this point. It's crazy. Like, you can't even be private anymore. You know that when I just broke up with their ex, doesn't see my. I was like, I can't be private. It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. All right. So yeah. So I was like, okay, and then I backfire again on him. I'm like, please block me. So he blocked me. So basically that was a disaster. And moving on to Dave. So I meet Dave on the app about very, very, very quickly after. Like, yeah, very quickly after. And like I said, I was actually messaging him. This Seth guy. While I was with Dave. Like, that's how messed up it is, right? But Dave and I were just dating, so we weren't official, but still, it was wrong. But I was telling Seth how much I missed him. So, yeah, I don't blame my ex for doing what he did, because I did the same thing too. So, like, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Like I said, us fairy boys are very, in a way, promiscuous. I'm working on that with my relationship with Jesus, I ain't about that life. I never was like that, as much as others have been. But I'm realizing with time that only brought me pain. These men only brought me so much pain. So it's not for me right now. I'm not in that place right now. Or I'm ready, okay? And yeah, you know, when you are so hurt, you almost like not even attracted to them anymore. It's like, yeah, you're not attracted to what you used to be attracted to. So I'm like, yeah, like I'm so turned off that and out of disgust for that what I went through in my past, that like my attraction's not even there anymore. I'm like, you know, so I'd rather be alone. But anyway, so good old Dave in his 50s worked as like a car salesman, made pretty much decent money. So I'm like, okay, but yeah, first date. Drinker. Yeah. Always showed up drunk, always be drinking. And I'm like, oh my god, not again. Like, yeah, not again. But again. And this guy was worse. Like, you could tell he was. The first one he was pretty good functioning. This one, I was like flat out, like even drank the hard liquor stuff, the brown liquor, the brown juice. I'm like, oh my god. So we were only lasting about 2 months max. I'd only see him once a week though, because he'd be so busy working. I'd be so busy working, trying to pay off my debts at the time. And I just turned 25. And I'm like, okay, life is good. This was right before 2020, that event hit. Okay, right before. So I always had this feeling like something was gonna happen, but I couldn't explain what. And I was like an emotional mess the whole time. And still kind of like depressed, getting over Seth and Tree. Okay, so Tree and Seth really did some damage to me at the time, and I was like a mess, just a mess. And I myself was actually at the time drinking a lot too, but not like them. It wasn't a problem. Thank God I never had a problem with that, but like more than I should have. Let's put it that way. Trying to numb myself. Okay. Y'all know I was never like that, but like, yeah, they messed me up for about a good solid few months. Again, you can only mess yourself up, but they were the cause for sure. Like, yeah, or I would say the effect of the cause of my inner deep emotions. I couldn't heal. I kept the whole time I'm feeling lonely, so I pretty much finished Hypno by then when I'm with him. So I'm like, okay, moving on. This is probably a sign this person's meant for me. Life is good. LOL, no. So again, I'm bringing up his own deep inner insecurities, just like I did with Seth. Dave is noticing, catching on. I'm very, like, at the time, judgmental, parental kind of role. He's probably like, who is this 20-something gonna tell me, 50-something, what to do? Right? The guy was very cheap. I thought I was cheap. I was like, dang, he didn't even want to go take me on dates. We went like once, and I had to pay. The other time, he paid, and like that's it. Like no more. I was like, maybe we should go out and not be home all the time. I didn't realize he was depressed as heck. But like the one day he cried to me about his grandmama and passed away. I'm like, yeah, you could tell, like he was home all the time, hated his job, hated his life. I'm like, yeah, I didn't notice the signs until then, but I'm like, yeah. So I did like, you know, some hypno work on him, you know, massage and stuff like that. I healed his sciatica. Okay, blah blah blah. Let's move on from there. So I was doing my best to help him, right, and get through resolution, just like I was with Seth, you know, trying to even like do like tarot readings on him, give him like a little one-on-one therapy session, right? And it did help them. They opened up a lot, and they got emotional. They, you know, I know the signs and symptoms of healing, you know, and it's very satisfying to do that. But I was there to try to be in a relationship with them. I'm not there to be their therapist, their papa, their friend, you know. I wanted to be their best friend, of course, because that's who is meant for you in a relationship. You can't just be their friend, you have to be their best friend, right? And it just never worked. Like, even conversations felt kind of dry. Like I had to almost force words to come out. I always notice like I'm the one doing most of the talking. They're just the ones kind of like silent, quiet, closeted, closed off. Again, but like a lot of that seems like that lion in lamb skin kind of behavior, wolf in sheep's clothing, you know what I'm saying? Like acting and playing shy and innocent. But if you actually read some of the text messages between us and the vulgarity they had in their language, you would know that that's not who they really are. So, I was not falling for that stuff. So, he went like off on me one day and I went off and I'm like, you know what? This isn't gonna work, He's always like, are you sure you want to be with me? Or I'm always working, you're busy. Really trying to make it seem like he wanted to get rid of me. And I don't like when people do that, especially when you've been with them for a few months. Like a recent one I've been with, he was like, I gotta change my career. Are you sure you're gonna still be with me? That's a red flag when they say that to you. Are you sure you want to still be with me? That's like an unconscious way of them trying to get rid of you. Okay? Because they are, let's just put it this way, I'll be blunt, they're no longer interested, okay? So, as soon as you hear that, run, because, hey, that's like they're not wanting to hurt your feelings and tell you directly to your face, but looking back, yes, every time they did that, it's like, they're clearly not ready, okay? And it's nothing personal to you, but it's their journey, right? So we have to respect that. And I gotta say, though, that, that can change, right? Maybe you've been through that with your partner and that changed. Okay, fine, cool. But I'm telling you, when they say that, they're not interested. So moving on. I'm telling them the truth. I'm like, why did I come one day? You asked me to come over, and then you were literally on the floor so drunk, and then you were telling me, why am I here? Gaslighting me. So, like, how can I be with someone like that? So they were like, F you, and they blocked me. So I was like, okay, that saves me some effort. They live really close, like 15 minutes from me, so I'm like, I could drive to their place and be like, what the heck, but I won't even bother. But I won't act like I drove by their house and blasted really loud music at one point or another. But that's besides the point. I was crazy, so moving on. So, now we're going to backtrack before all of these people treat Dave, Seth, again, they're fake names. This one, I'll name him Chance. So Chance, I met when I first came to the state. And I won't go talk about too much and still be in detail because they're a friend now to this day. Well, they were always kind of like on and off with me because, again, that's like I'm not very trusting of people, and when I feel like they hurt me, then I kind of have to like get back in some way, by blocking them or just being petty. This person, I had first met them, had a really great time the first time, and it was the first like actual in-person guy I was like trying to date, and again, they were in like their 50s, and I was really attracted to them, had a good time, liked their energy, and but then like a bunch of drama started happening with them in their life. Like they were really busy working on their house, and like there was some serious crime going on in their neighborhood, on their street specifically, like stuff I won't even get into or mention. It was just awful. Like he had to bring a detective, and the whole unit came, and yeah, so several times, in fact, like several issues on the street. So all of that drama, but they ended up moving back to their home state, and then, on and off talking with them. They come, I visit them, and then again, off it goes, and off they go to the other state. And it was just so on and off. I couldn't take it anymore, but it took me a long time to get over, because I felt like this could have been something, this could have worked at one point. But then, I tell them that I love them, and they tell me they love me as a friend, and it's like, that's when I realized this was never a thing, and I wish they would have been more direct with me at the time. But regardless, all is forgiven with each other. Me for having blocked them unnecessarily because of my own, again, deep pains I was going through, and wanting a guy so bad at the time. I was like 21, 22, dealing with all this, and trying to make a good living for myself. Moved out on my own the first time, and I was so deeply pained and insecure, and I didn't realize it then. I thought that maybe this was just normal, and I thought this is how couples start, is that they have to go through their on and off drama and stuff. But no, clearly he wasn't interested. If he was, he would have stayed. He would have made it work. He would have found a solution. He would have found a way, but he wasn't ready. And then I later found out he was going through an ex that was horrible to him and treated him horribly, like broke his arm, like horrible stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense now. I can see the pattern why someone is so afraid to be in a relationship with someone now, because of the past. The physical attraction may be there, but it's more lust than love. And I even spoke to a psychic at the time, and they were like, yeah, that was more something that was lustful than loving. And I couldn't connect it, but and it makes sense now. But of course, there's still like a friendship. It's not just lust, obviously there's still connections there. But yeah, it always felt like it was hard for me to connect. And I wasn't getting the reciprocated energy, I guess. But they definitely were good in the bed. I'll give them that much. But anyway, so moving on. This was interesting because they were just an interesting person. I can't explain it. They had an interesting career, and they came from just overall I don't even know why. I forget why. But they were just very, very cool person. I know that sounds lame. It's like boring, Tony. Like you could have brought more interesting facts. No, I don't want to. I don't know. I changed my mind. I don't want to bring it up anymore. Alright, because, when someone meant something to you at one point, they're very special. You don't want to talk about it, but this person, it took me the longest to get over. It really did, because they really meant something to me at the time. And, yeah. Anyway, so moving on. This was a random fling. Kind of like a sugar daddy, but not really. They offered me money, but I never accepted. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. This was my first experience with one. So he agreed to drive all the way up an hour. This was back when I lived in Illinois. And so I met them at a hotel, like really late at night, like 1 a.m, and snuck out. They picked me up, and I didn't have a car at the time. I didn't have a car until 21, so you can understand. So yeah, they drive to the hotel. We go in, and we're just sitting there, like watching cable news and having coffee at like 1 a.m. just to wake up, and just talk to each other. But it was like super awkward, uncomfortable. We're just literally both like talking and just having coffee, and I was like, is this normal? Like, is this how people do it? Like, they meet up at 1 a.m, and I'm like, what is this? And obviously they wanted more, but I was not comfortable. I just wanted to warm up first. I can't just jump in and do that right away with someone. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't was so suspicious and shady. They probably had a wife and 5 children. Like, yeah, horrible. They didn't say they did, but looking back, I'm like, you dummy. Like, yeah, obviously, like, meeting up in a hotel in the middle of the night. Like, are you kidding me? Like, obviously, right? I didn't know, though, at the time. So, yeah. So we start doing our thing, and it just, like, ends up epic fail. I'm, like, so uncomfortable. I'm so cold in that room. I'm shaking. I'm shivering. He's, like, trying to calm me down, and I'm just, like, so uncomfortable because he's, like, so much older, and I'm, like, so young. And, I was of age, obviously, but, like, I just felt like this, like, one of my first experiences. I just felt so uncomfortable, and I was like, yeah, you know, it's not like being with a friend, right, or really warming up to them. And nowadays, like, I would never do that again, you know, just jumping in right away like that. No, like, have some decency and respect, you know. Talk to me first. Talk to me for a week at least before you even try to kiss me or touch me in that way, you know. So, yeah, it's such a turn off. And so, after that experience, I didn't even bother trying with guys for like 3 years because I was so, like, disgusted by just the behavior. And so he's like, well, let me try something that'll calm you down. So I'm like, what is it? So he gets this candle that apparently if you light it and you tip it over, the oil is like massage oil. He pours on my back. I'm screaming at like 2 in the morning. He's the pain from the hot wax felt like it was burning my spine. I'm like, get it off, get it off, get it off. He's like, oh, it's Moroccan nights. I'm like, I don't care if it's Egyptian daytime. Get it off me, you know, like. So he's like massaging. He's like, oh, okay, that feels nice and better, but the smell is so strong. I'm like, oh Lord, you know, I'm gonna get caught when I go home. Everyone's gonna ask me like, what was I doing? Why do I smell like that? So, you know, again, I'm just so uncomfortable. He's like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, started acting like really weird. Like me, I was obviously like acting really weird, and he was probably like weirded out by me. He's probably like, what the heck? I just paid like $100 for nothing and drove all this way for nothing. Well, we didn't end up doing anything together, and like I was starting to act that way because I'm like, obviously he doesn't want to get to know me. I'm like, can we just sit here and talk? And he's like, okay, do you want another coffee? I'm like, no, I just want to talk. And he's like, okay. Like, clearly he wasn't interested in talk. He wanted to talk downstairs, you know what I'm saying? That's what kind of talk he wanted to do. So he was like, you want to brush your teeth? I'm like, why? He's like, you just had coffee. Maybe you want to brush your teeth. I don't know what you want to do. I don't know what we want to do. Like, I don't know what we should do anymore. I'm like, I guess it's time. It's getting late, isn't it? And he's like, fine. So we drive. As soon as we leave the hotel, cops stop us, pull us over. I'm shaking. I'm literally like quivering like a chihuahua in the cold. Like, yeah, it was freezing too because, you know, Illinois at night in like the fall season. Plus I was scared and petrified. I'm like, yep, they're gonna tell my parents I'm sneaking out at night. I'm gonna get caught. But I was like, oh, thank God I'm over 18, so, you know, they can't actually do that. So they're like shining the flashlight. It's like a man and a woman. They're like, what are you doing this late at night? Who are you with? Is this your father? What best friends? What do you mean? Why are you meeting in a hotel later? Were you drinking? Is there something suspicious activity going on? Did they try to hurt you? Like, they were defensive, like trying to protect me. I was like, no, this person is fine. They were checking him up and down, patting him, checking his ID, checking his wallet, checking the car, like super untrusting. And so they're like, all right, you're free to go. So we go, and he, like, I kid you not, I was so scared. I was farting in the car the whole time. I've hotboxed that car with gas. Like, yeah, we had to open the windows, and the cold air kept coming in, and that was more cold, and I kept just, it was horrible. Like, that poor guy, like, I put him through so much, but you know what? Not poor guy, because if he was cheating on his wife and stuff like that, that ain't right, okay? But anyway. So, I go home and I'm like trying to talk to him the next couple days. Dead silence, clearly not interested. Very passive in his texts. I'm like, alright, let me move on. last video I made a couple years ago because I felt like very alone. I broke up with him. He kept playing me and we never ended up meeting. So yeah, that random fling was a disaster. And I had one more after that was just a couple more. One before, one after. It never ended up working out. We didn't do much together and I was just scared. I was like very distrusting of guys and they just kept trying to use me clearly for looks, appearance, that kind of thing. I have to use different keywords on here because I don't want to talk too much about it. On my OnlyFans page, I talk in detail about this experiences, okay? Like, detail. So if you want that kind of tea, you may have to scroll quite a bit down, but you'll find it eventually. I have like 650 posts plus now on my OnlyFans. Anyway, onlybomboni.com, 18 plus only. Moving on. So the last one is I'm gonna make a separate story time about them because they were a toxic friend, and I have to talk a whole hour about them because it was juicy. Like I gotta go in on them. I gotta spill the tea because it's been a long time. I've been wanting to talk about them for 5+ years now, and I held back, but I can't resist. I gotta talk. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail about them, so I'll end this video with this person. I'm gonna call them Joe. Alright. No, that's a bad choice of word. Let me not say that. I'm gonna call them Mo. Okay? No. That's even worse. Every time I think of that name, M-O-E, Mo, like I'm thinking of the Three Stooges, like Mo, Larry, and Curly. So I'm gonna be laughing the whole time if I say that. So that's no. I'm gonna call them Ken. I'm gonna call them Kenny. So Kenny. These names, man. I can't even keep up. I can't remember what name I use. Too many men. Maybe I should take a lifelong break. Okay, so. Oh my god. Alright, so, Kenneth. So Kenneth was a friend, okay? I wanted something with them at first, but I was like, nah. Oh, they also met me from YouTube, like of course, right? So, and they had run their own channel as well. So Kenneth, basically after I got to meet up with them on the first day, we were talking on Snapchat at first. At the time, I don't have Snapchat anymore, but, because that's for babies. I don't use it. I'm sorry, but no, I'm too old for that. And there's just too much going on in life that I don't got time for that. But Kenneth. Yes, Kenneth. I kissed him on the first night in the car. And I asked him for a kiss. I was initiating because, he was a bit younger than me. At the time, I think I was like 23. They were 20. So I was like, always felt like I was taking charge. I was the man in that connection. With two men, there's always the man and the woman in the relationship. You get it, right? Well, not always, but in my case. So anyway. Yeah, I was like, I need to make charge. I'm the one here making more money. Like, I'm the one here driving you around. You don't even got a car, Kenny, okay? You don't even got a car. So I'm like, yeah, let me ask you, right? So I'm trying some new part of me. Like, I used to always be like the feminine. So I'm like trying, that's when I first was channeling my inner masculinity and getting that energy out. And I'm like, I'm feeling good. But I didn't realize I was very controlling with that as well. So I'm always the one being like, we're going to go here. We're going to do this thing. I'm going to do that thing, right? And it didn't give them enough time to show their inner masculine. And when they would, it would be an aggression because I wasn't allowing them to express themselves. It was always like, having to share my opinions. So we were very on and off. We were on and off 3 times, okay, in 5 years. So very toxic right away. That's a red flag, like toxic for each other. No blame or fault to this person. Part of it, my fault, part of it was their fault, right? No one was in the wrong here. No one was in the right either. It just cancels itself out, and that's why it doesn't work. So, they had told me some stuff that I won't even go into detail that kind of freaked me out, alright? But then I told friendship that just canceled itself out. And it never went anywhere. And basically, like, I was going through a lot of mental health issues at the time when I was 23. No. Yeah, 22, 3. That era, 24. Like, the worst. I'm talking like, I didn't want to be here anymore, okay? So, like, basically, there were some days I would dissociate, and they would catch me in my dissociative episode, and it would be like this, like, I'd just be on the couch, like, randomly, like, just like, yeah, so, they were witnessing that, so basically, of course, that scared them away, and they blocked me. So, long story short, it hurt, but, you know, I was also not in the right place, so I was also, like, very vengeful in my behavior toward them, so I waited a year, got them to, I don't know, somehow, I didn't even try to get them to, they just, their own choosing, reached back out, apologized, didn't understand what it was like, because they were telling me they were very closed off. Their mother had kept them, I don't know, in the house all the time, very, like, protective of their children, right? Sort of, I don't know if it was sort of like my situation too, but, like, I could relate. I was like, oh, that makes sense, you know, that's why I'm like this, I'm a hot mess, because, you know, I just, you know, didn't interact with people enough, I guess, but that was mostly my choosing, right? I don't blame anyone for that, but it starts in childhood for sure. So, moving on, I was like, thank you for understanding my mental health crises. Yes, I'm doing my best to get the help I can. I was like trying to secure a therapist at the time, and, you know, getting different type of healing modalities and help and energy work and stuff like that, you know. So that's when I was diving deeper and deeper into that stuff, and, you know, nothing in one thing in particular worked, but it was a multitude of things and life experience that helped me heal and get over that. And I don't do that anymore. I don't dissociate anymore, but, like, it would get so bad sometimes I'd have, like, episodes where I would just, like, yeah, be, like, horrible, lose it. So so yeah, they were trying to be more understanding, and so we met up. Well, we were going to meet up, and then I chickened out. I got so scared they wanted to hurt me again, like, emotionally, mentally, that I blocked them on my drive there, and I went back home. And then a couple years later, I reached out, and I'm summarizing. I, like, jumped way far ahead, but you'll get the full story time soon. Basically, I wrote them a letter, sent it to them, they got it, and they had moved several times, so I had to, like, dig online and find the address and stuff. Play detective, right? And yeah, they were happy to reach out. I gave them my Instagram DM, and they reached out on a Suck account, and we started talking right away, like good old friends. Met up, brought them to my house for the first time. I never bring anyone to my house. Only 3 people in these 4.5 years of my friends have ever stepped in this house, and they each only came like 2-3 times max. So yeah, I don't bring many people in this house, you know. So I just basically obviously was the one, you know, driving, and that's when gas prices started to go up crazy through the roof. This was only a year ago. It officially ended about 8 months ago, but that's when I met my ex, and then, you know, I got carried away with that. And so yeah, we spent a lot of time talking, but then, like, it would get to the point where, like, again, kind of like the gaslighting behavior. Like, we go to the park one day, and he'd be like, oh, why are we walking too much? Why are we walking so much? Can we just please sit down? I'm tired of walking at work. I'm tired of standing on my legs and feet. I'm like, we're just here to have a good time. I'm not even trying to take you off or bother you. Like, I just want to have a good time. We've been walking the beach, you know, and we would go to the beach for sure, in the parks and stuff, and walk in nature a lot. And he's just like, I'm so tired of walking. We stop walking. I love walking. I've been walking so much as a kid. Maybe that's why I'm so used to it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have a big house and I just walk around a lot. I don't know. Like, my legs are used to walking. They're built. Man made us to walk. it's like they have a 9 to 5 job. Look at you having your own car in your house. You should be more grateful. I'm like, he just started digging below the belt. I'm like, it has nothing to do with this conversation. He just dug in. He's like, look around, look how much you have compared to other people. Like, oh my God, I don't have nearly as much as you do. And you know, the least I could do is just sit in this bench. And like, he had like he went off a tangent. So I'm like, all right now, all right. So I, like, the whole time I'm super nice, super chill, super calm. I'm like, I just want to enjoy my life, my time, spend time with a good friend. But it just was not it. And then I end up smacking my car into the curb, damaging my tire. I'm glad we made it back home alive, because when I came back, he said, you could have died. That's how much damage I did on my tire. I was going 84 on the highway, and he said, it could have been over for you. So already I'm like, the energy's off, something's not right here. And I noticed that a lot, even with like ex and like an old friend I had. They were always complaining that I walked so too much, and they wish they would have gotten a break, but I gave them a break. But it's like, you know, you let me know if you don't want to walk. You don't gotta be mean about it. You know, you don't gotta yell at me and say like, let's stop walking. But like, I just love, like, literally, I took a trip a few months ago to the east coast of Florida. Guess what I did? I walked 5 beaches in 10 hours. I literally drove from beach to beach to beach and walked each one for about a couple hours. I kid you not, I love to walk. It does not bother me. My legs never get tired. They never hurt. They're never sore. They were sore after, obviously, but I don't see the point of complaining. I'm like, hey, you could just, you know, go home, sit on the bench, you know, you tell me if you don't want to walk no more. So it's healthy, you know, man is made to walk. That's just how I see it. I'm like, if you don't want to do it, just tell me, go sit down. I'll go walk. I'll come back. No, it was always like, can we just sit here? Can we just, oh my God. Anyway, so I was like, you don't gotta go off on me in public in this park. He's like literally yelling at me at this point, and I'm literally there, nothing, like saying nothing, super chill. Again, gaslighting. So like, gaslighting me to make me feel crazy that like, and we didn't even walk that much. We walked like 10 minutes, and he's like, oh, I'm so tired of walking. I'm like, we drove here for 2.5 hours. And we finally get out of the car, and you're okay. So yeah. Anyway, and then we went on this beach, right, one day, and then I was like, without this fully, completely, and I got caught, and the police came. He's like, yeah, can you please put your drawers on? I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I pretended I was like, I'm just like a tourist, you know, I'm not from here, and I didn't know the rules. I'm sorry, where I'm from, I just do a lot of, you know, I'm good at the acting and pretending. So he believed it, I guess. And he's just like, yeah, sorry, this is like not the place. I'm like, what's the temperature of the water? And he just walked off. I'm like, whatever, bye Felicia. So I put my drawers on, right, and you know, he just starts acting like erratic, like drinking. Also, drink problem. Okay, third person with drink problem. I'm like, oh my God, you know, there's a pattern here, right? Like, there's something in me that's unhealed. I keep meeting people that just are going through this, right? Okay, no judgment there. I've known people like that. I get it. I know. I've almost been there, okay, myself. So who am I to judge and talk? But yeah, because they were going through their father's passing. They were just going through a lot of breakup with their ex, and I'm like, okay, I get you, I understand. You know, we hugged, and he cried and cried and cried for like a whole 10 minutes, just like sobbing. I'm just like, I'm here for you, you know, even though like I felt really hurt, really hurt from them. I still felt like, okay, I'm just still here for you, you know. And, you know, doing my best to be a good person, right? Like, be the best I can, present myself the best way I can, you know, without hurting the feelings. Because when someone's like depressed in a really low place, they're hypersensitive. So any little criticism they take like tenfold. So I'm doing my best because I know how that's like. I'm also been in that place and very sensitive to criticism. So, but then starts telling me like, you can't just tell me to let it go. You can't just tell me to let it go. I'm like, oh my God, like anything I say at this point is gaslight. Like anything I say at this point is epic fail. So I'm like, let me just keep my mouth shut. And then when you keep your mouth shut, why are you so quiet? Are you mad at me? What's wrong? Did I do something? I'm like, oh my god. So you know what? Like, we get to dispute in the car. It just on and off for days like this. And like, it's always like, oh, they're nice when we're talking on FaceTime on the phone or whatever. And then when we meet up in person, it's always some drama. Like, oh, why didn't you buy me this drink? Why didn't you do this for me? And they drink like those cans of like, what do they call, like Four Locos, right? Those strong ones. I drank those a couple times. I'm like, whoa, like, no, thank you. Okay, not anymore. Bad for the teeth, not healthy, too strong. So, yeah. So I'm like, this is like your 5th one of the day. Like, I don't think this is okay. Like, you said your liver was hurting, and they started getting like the swelling of the nails and stuff. I'm like, that's a sign of disease, right? Like you may want to like slow it down. Oh no, my daddy had it too. Like, we all had one. Okay, suit yourself. So, got super mad at the gas station. Like, why didn't you buy me this drink? I'm like, I bought you like the 4th one today. Like, I'm gonna go broke from you, like I'm saying. Oh, so I don't got it like that to be spending, like, we want to be responsible. At the time everything started to go up, hyperinflation, and I'm like, yeah, I can't be doing this anymore. And I started even acting like them, acting different, and they're like, oh, we can no longer vibe together. I have a best friend I'd rather talk to. And like, are you kidding me? I'm literally driving you home in the middle at nighttime right now. I could just pull up and stop you, and you get an Uber home if you want to be disrespectful like that. And that's when I went off. Like, the whole 3 months I was super chill and nice, and I just went off. I was like, I can't do this. My blood pressure, and I be having that blood pressure nowadays. Like, yeah, probably ever since then. I'm like, oh, I'm like, a little bit of stress can get me, so I can't. My heart feels like it's palpitating on my chest sometimes. Last time I was at the clinic in Mexico, I was like, high blood pressure. Like, yeah, I don't play around with that anymore. Anyone disturbing your peace, stressing you out, get them out of your life. Oh yeah, I forgot to say about the random fling at 4 a.m. in the hotel. They were, again, like, super gaslighty. Like, they didn't get what they wanted out of me, and so they were showing off about their life. Oh, I have this house. My friend worked for the Transformers movie with these famous actors and this and that. I'm like, whatever, man. Anyway, I forgot to mention that was another interesting fact. Whatever, okay? Like, yeah. It's always like, oh, you showing off when you don't get what you want. I know how it be playing. Anyway, moving on to this person. What did I name this person? I called him Jomo at the time. What did I name them? Kenneth. So Kenneth was like, just, yeah, do not spend time with the wrong people, especially nowadays, you guys. It's not worth it. I had to cut him off. I went home. I asked them for like a tissue or something. They didn't even bring me the tissue because they spilled the drink. They had like apple juice or something in my car, and they spilled it everywhere. It was like so sticky. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this was a closed container. You just spilled it all over, and they like spit it out. Also, it was like all over my windshield. My window was jammed. Like, he started breaking my car. There were stains. Heck, there's still stains on my roof to this day. I'm like, and then one time a soda can, it was the soda. Now I remember it was the Pepsi. It exploded and then it just went everywhere. I'm like, oh my god. So, I'm like super irresponsible. Shame on you. And basically, I asked him for a tissue. He went home, didn't even give me the tissue. So I drove off. It was like very late at night. Went home, and this was around when I was like living alone before my brother came, and I was super distressed. And then they kept asking me the next day, like, oh, did you see my driver's license? I'm like, no, like, I'm not responding at this point. I stay silent for 3 days, and they keep asking me, and I block them, and I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't see no stinking license. Like, he kept losing things as well. He's very forgetful, and I'm like, whatever, like, huge mess, I mean, when you're out of it half the time, of course, you're not gonna know or remember what you did, what you said to what person. And so, like, I can't take this anymore. with these kind of people, it's always like they forget what they said to you or did to you the day before, and they act like pretend all fake, everything's normal and okay the next day. That's a roller coaster ride of a friendship, a relationship, anything, ship. I can't do this. Yeah, I was attracted to them, and I wanted something more, but they were so afraid of getting hurt and stuff that I was just, again, like the same pattern again, right? Like, very hard to keep friends with someone that you're attracted to. So didn't end up working out, and haven't heard from them again. They end up blocking me, and they're like, oh, fine, blah, 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 block. So yeah, long story short, make a whole nother story time about that, because that's a juicy one, but that was the summary. Thank you very much for watching, Poopsies. Hope you enjoyed this interesting dating. That was mostly all of them, I think, counting that last video and this one, that were yeah, I'm gonna make a story time in the future about recent happenings, right? That one, yeah. I didn't want to bring them up in this video because I feel like it's too much, too long, too soon, but I'm gonna be talking about that. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed as much as I'm filming for you. Again, I have a website, Bomboni.com, if you'd like to book your own service for me. And subscribe if you enjoyed this video. You want more story time, spilling the tea, spilling the beans, spilling the beans, spilling the beans, like this one. Bye guys, I love you so much, and thank you for letting me share, letting it out. It's also very therapeutic for me in a way, and to see things in a different perspective.